The Stepfather from 1987. Not a movie on the big list of 100 movies that I still haven't finished after over a year and a half, but instead, a kind of random movie that I found on Shudder that I hadn't really heard of, but with a horror movie called The Stepfather, there's not really much that you need to try and imagine about it. I mean, it's about, I don't know, a family whose father dies, and then there's a new stepfather, and he turns out to be crazy and evil. Wow, that's kind of basically the plot of this movie. Very, very basic, very standard. And with a movie like this, right, it can go two ways. It can be really good by virtue of the character, the stepfather itself, and also the family and the acting and the clever small additives of writing. Or it can be B, really boring, really basic, like super basic concept with really basic, real baseline execution. And, I think that in some aspects, yes, but also in some aspects, I think it's a little bit of both. I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't know that this movie had a remake. I didn't know that it had several sequels, so it's obviously got a bit of a legacy to it. But the first thing that comes to mind with this movie, I got to give it to the performance by the stepfather himself. And just his character in general. I thought it was really interesting at the very beginning of the movie how it starts out, where he's just walking out of the house real lackadaisically, whistling to himself as he walks past the just gruesome massacre of his entire family. But he looks like a cross between Steve Gaines, the brother of the band Leonard Skinner who died in the plane crash, and also not the slave, the caveman from Geico, the Geico commercials. So easy a caveman can do it. Yeah. But when he shaves, he ends up looking like a cross between like Jim Nance and freaking Robin Williams. Like, the thing with him is, so obviously he's a crazy guy who kills his family. He becomes a stepfather in a family, and he's crazy, right? The stepfather. But he has like this cyclical cycle, where like around every year he will change his identity, move to a new neighborhood, start a new life, and basically woo a single mother with a child or two, become the stepfather, get close to them, and murder their whole family, and rinse and repeat. Changes his name, changes his occupation, changes his whole look, which I thought was kind of cool. And so like throughout, at the very end, he looks like a pencil stashed George Costanza. Like, and this guy's 35, by the way. I just want to say, because the look that he has throughout the entirety of the movie, for the most part, he does not look 35. Like I said, he looks like Robin Williams. Jim Nance, he looks like he could be 50. So I don't know. I just wanted to say that. But no, I think the stepfather himself is actually pretty cool. I do also enjoy the other main character, if you will, which is the daughter with whom he is the stepdaughter of, or she is the stepdaughter of him. He is her stepfather. She does a great job. Her name is Stephanie. And at certain points in the movie, her acting is kind of subpar, I will say. But I think she was a kind of a smart and nice character. It really, she's in high school, right? And the actress, I had to look this up. The actress who played her, a 16-year-old character, was 23. But at the very end of the movie, there is a very plain as day shower scene where you can clearly see her naked. That threw me off because it's referenced several times throughout the movie that she's 16 and she's very clearly in high school. I just thought that was kind of like weird and just wanted to throw that out in the universe. But yeah, no, I think my favorite part with her is whenever she begins to suspect that this stepfather who's come into her life is kind of a creep ball, or just not a good guy. She hears a story about another man who murdered a wife and child and fled and was never heard from again. And that was exactly a year ago. And it had been a year since her mother had met this weird guy, and she is currently the lone child, and her mom was single. And so she's like, okay, I hate my stepdad, and I'm hearing about a crazy stepdad who killed his whole family. So she's like, kind of like, maybe I'm crazy, but also, let me get a picture of the guy, because they knew who he was, but they could never find him. You know, they could never like actually like track him or whatever. Vicious cough. And so one of my favorite parts of the movie, she orders the pictures to be sent in the mail, right? And our boy, the stepfather, the crazy little bastard he is, he intercepts the mail, and he looks at the picture, and he's like, oh shit, that's me. And then he's a little clever fucker. He reminds me of Norman Bates, kind of. He asks her, he says, oh, did I get anything in the mail? And he says, yeah. He shows her the magazine. And he was like, why did you order this? She's like, oh, it was for a school project. And he's like, oh, you fucker. You are onto me, right? And you've seen some little things on the side to be like, okay, he has these little like meltdowns where he kind of exposes the actual psycho in his head that has been driving him to murder his whole family all these times. And there's one instance where she actually sees it in the basement. And that's another reason that drives her to want to look into him. And it's a nice scene, man. It really is. Because you honestly don't know what the fuck's going to go on. Because this guy is not very intimidating. Like I said, he kind of reminds... He's like if Robin Williams played Norman Bates, I guess. That's kind of what he looks like, you know? And so she then talks to her therapist about him, and the therapist is like, all right, I kind of want to check this out. So he kind of vets him a little bit, and he sets up a real estate listing, because the guy... So our boy loves to change up his occupation, right? And so in one, he's like an insurance salesman, but in the one throughout the entirety of the movie, he's a real estate salesman, I guess. Realtor. And the therapist, who looks like his twin, they look like fucking brothers. It's weird. When you watch the movie, you could get them confused for each other. Like, when I was first watching this movie, I thought they were the same person, even when they were in separate scenes. But basically, he uses his psychology to talk him into kind of exposing himself, because, you know, the daughter, Stephanie, had basically told him all about how she had this, you know, wondering suspicion, and how maybe she might be crazy, or blah, 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 and that she hates him, and she just blah, 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 yeah, yeah. She heard his you know, little meltdown he had. And so the therapist uses his mind games to kind of expose him, to try and lure him into saying some things about his past life that might be like, oh shit, you had a daughter and wife that died, and there was that big murder case that was never solved between a man murdering his daughter and his wife. And he actually successfully does it, but the thing that pisses me off is there's no payoff. Instead, our boy says, oh, really? Pulls out a fucking 2x4 and beats him to death. You know? Like, he beats the fuck out of him with a 2x4. It's pretty brutal. And he hits him with it like 20 times, bro. Like, seriously. Like, he murders this motherfucker. So rip to the therapist. But the other thing, though, with this movie, this is the one that, other than the bad acting, at times, the thing that pisses me off the most with this movie, and the biggest missed opportunity, is the Friday the 13th Part 4 Rob Dwyer character that they have in the movie. The subplot. And they actually pay a lot of mind to the subplot too. It's not just some small passing thing. You have the character who is the brother of the wife with whom the stepfather killed at the very beginning of the movie. He is on the hunt to try and find out and find, you know, his brother-in-law, the man who, you know, killed his niece and his sister. And obviously, you know, it takes place in Seattle. The police can't help him because they don't have anything to go on. So he goes on this independent little hunt to try and find him, vigilante style. And he actually finally starts putting things together and comes face to face with him. And this guy, it's not like, you know, he's some like fat 60-year-old cop, or he's just like a kid or something. Like he looks like he looks like I don't fucking know, like George Michael or like a Kurt Russell in the 80s. Like he looks like he's a pretty, like he looks like the lead from the Lost Boys. Like he looks like he could be physically imposing if he needed to be. He looked like a badass. And they have this big confrontation, and you're like, oh shit, that's the very end of the movie. And he pulls out the gun, and fucking Stepfather just guts him like a fucking fish. Like he just stabs him in the heart. And once again, there's only 2 kills in this whole movie, but they are brutal. He not only does he stab him in the heart, he fucking like he doesn't just like stab him and let him fall to the ground. He stabs him, takes it out, stabs further into the wound. Like it is intense, and it's crazy, and it's really too fucking bad because he doesn't even get a shot off. Like there is a quick little confrontation where they both come to the realization that they are who they are, and then boom, he fucking dies. Like it's not like he gets shot either, he gets stabbed, and he just, oh man, it sucks. And you know, I didn't necessarily want him to kill the stepfather. You know, if he did die, I wouldn't have been upset, but the way he died, there was no struggle, there was nothing. Like it was just like a massive buildup, and then just it was like going up a super tall hill on a roller coaster just for it to level up, and then it just end, and you just have to walk down a bunch of steps to get back to the amusement park. Like it was a massive disappointment. But anyway, I've rambled on a lot about this movie. I know a lot of the specifics of this movie because it's not overly complex, but that being said, I did enjoy it, and I do remember a lot of it, and it's been a couple days since I've seen it. The ending itself, you know, it's a pretty kind of by the books little chase / good guy versus good girl versus bad guy. You know, they go up in the attic and they wrestle down, and she stabs him in the hand, and he busts through. She falls through the attic, and then she falls down the stairs, and then this and that and the third. You know, the mom, who he basically beat to a pulp at the bottom of the steps, grabs the gun of the guy who was stabbed in the heart and just gutted like a fish, shoots him, or he gets him right in the butt cheek. She stabs him in the shoulder, and then one last time he falls down. Or no, he doesn't fall. She stabs him in the heart, then he falls down the stairs and he's dead. And so the ending itself is okay, but man, like the real only issues that I have with the entire movie, straight up, are the bad acting and the whole subplot of the guy trying to avenge his murdered sister from the beginning. Because it didn't go anywhere. Did not go anywhere. But I did enjoy this movie, I must say. You know, I would probably recommend this to horror fans. I know it's got the sequels and the remake. I don't know if it's quite on that level, but I could see a remake. I could see a sequel or two. And I did see in the sequel, the character who played the stepfather is back. So I don't know how the fuck that works. He was clearly fucking dead. Right, and I watched the end, and I didn't see any like, ooh, he might be alive. Like, no, he got stabbed in the heart, shot in the back, stabbed again, fell down the stairs. Like, no, he's fucking dead. But the mother and the daughter end up making it, so that's cool. Huge spoilers. Wow, I just ran through the entire fucking movie. But yeah, no, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. I think. Because I would recommend it to horror fans, and I think I would recommend it to film fans as well. I think his performance and just the character in general is really, really admirable, and it's a stellar performance, and he's pretty well written as well. He's kind of hard to get it's hard to put your finger on him as to who the fuck he actually is, you know? But yeah, would I watch this with friends? Maybe. It's just not an outstanding movie, but I enjoyed it. I'm going to give it a 3.5, actually, out of 5. Yeah, The Stepfather from 1987. It's pretty good.